Good day, sir and classmates. I am Lerma of Gornal and she is Miss Gagal, and we are your discussants for today. So our video report is all about the stylistic approach. But before we proceed to our main discussion, let me present to you our learning objectives. So at the end of our video report, the students will be expected to: Number 1, define stylistic and stylistic approach in teaching literature. Number 2, know and understand the characteristics, applications, and common activities that use in stylistic approach. And lastly, number 3, learn and evaluate the significance of using stylistic approach in teaching literature to students. So what is stylistics? Stylistics is a science which explores how readers interact with the language of mainly literary text in order to explain how we understand and how we are affected by text when we read it. On the other hand, what is stylistic approach? Stylistic approach incorporates a close reading of its literature contrary to the traditional ways of memorization and reproduction. So it means that this kind of approach is not just all about reading, memorizing, and reproduction. Rather, it is all about the reading, comprehension, relation to personal experience, and interpreting every word structures and sentences used in a specific literature. This approach concentrates on the peculiarities of diction and imagery employed, sometimes relating them to social theory. So, if there is a strange use of words, this approach is very essential to use, so that we will learn how to say and how the meanings of a particular word is made. It taught us to know what makes the language of literature different from everyday language that we use. Stylistic approach teaches students to look for and interpret the stylistic dimension of a text. Yes, we can easily say that texts really have meanings, but through this approach, the hidden or deep meaning within a text is analyzed and recognized properly. Now let's move to the characteristic of stylistic approach. The number 1 is it applies linguistics to the literature in the hope of aiming at analysis which are more broadly based, rigorous, and objectives. This characteristic gives a chance to encourage students the ability to infer meaning by interacting with the text. The number 2 characteristic is it represents a promising area not only because stylistic analysis involves both field, but because such an analysis makes possible a more complex approach to literature. In this approach, critics have comprehensive methodology as well as discipline tools for investigating a literature text. The third characteristic of stylistic approach is it focuses on the linguistic devices or applications at the phonological, lexical, or syntactic level, whichever proves to be meaningful in any kind of literary interpretation. The example of this is the word sun in the poem entitled Futility by Wilfred Owen. In the poem, the word sun is used as an inanimate thing in the code, but then it has been treated as animate in the context, which gives another different meaning. Thus, readers are no longer dependent on the told meaning of the word sun, but look other interpretation beyond this. That will be all for my report, and to continue the discussion about the stylistic approach, here is Miss Gagal. Thank you.
Why apply a stylistic approach? So, because its form is important in poetry. Stylistic has the largest amount of analytical weapons. Moreover, it suggests why certain devices are effective. So, this will help to understand the role of language and literature, and we are and we are able to appreciate the artistic use of language form of our own point of view. But what do you mean by artistic? Artistic means that it depends on the skill or artist to shape by the materials, techniques, and forms make use of, as well as the ideas and feelings it creates in its viewers. So also, we will be able to get the participatory rule as we taught to interact, examine, and evaluate the language of the text to interpret the meaning acquired. So stylistic is a very technical subject which hardly makes for engrossing or ended uncontentious reading. So according to T.S. Eliot, advocates that the form of literary text should itself interpret its content. So because to study the form of literary text would intimate the student about the diction of the author. Let's come now to the common activities using stylistic approach. I have 5 common activities using stylistic approach. Number 1, identify linguistic features. Example, vocabulary words. And number 2, discuss different meaning of a text. Make the language of literature different from everyday language. And number 3, extract example from a text that describes a setting. And number 4, identify adjectives that describe a character. And number 5, a combination of literary analysis and literary critique. So, what is the significance of using a stylistic approach? The students will get the participatory rule as they will be taught to interact, examine, and evaluate the language meaning acquired intuitively using the linguistic features and literary theory, thus helping them to develop their own communicative competence as readers. It teaches learners to appreciate the beauty and literature through linguistics, enables the students to affirm and feel more than one meaning, and it helps them to understand how to make the use of the target language. And number 3, teaches learners how to communicate with others by expressing their opinions and ideas while guiding them and read and listen to poetry critically. That will be all, guys. So I hope you gain something from my discussion for today. Thank you.